In Lindsay, our performance-based system ensures every learner has the ideal learning experience, are met at their developmental level, and have the learning support they need to be successful. The key metric for determining how am I doing is pacing in a performance-based system. Simply stated, grades are constant, pacing is variable. The time allotted for learning is also fairly constant. We have between kindergarten and 12th grade to learn everything necessary to graduate, and we have between August and December to learn everything needed for course credit in the first semester and so on. However, because we personalize the amount of time learners have to demonstrate proficiency, the time between those bookends essentially becomes variable. Pacing ultimately tells us when we need to work harder and when we can go deeper. As the instructional year progresses, we want learners and families to have accurate, real-time feedback on learners' course progress, including whether they're on pace and expected to meet all learning outcomes in the expected window of time, ahead of pace and exceeding the expected window of time and completing learning outcomes at an accelerated rate, or behind pace and needing additional supports to meet the learning outcomes in the expected window of time. There are two different types of pace displayed in Empower: expected pace and actual pace. Expected pace is the class pace, which is constantly moving forward each day. Imagine it as a steady drip filling up over time at a consistent rate throughout the year or semester. This pace is steady and will be the same for every learner in the class. Actual pace is a real-time representation of the mastery achieved by the learner. Every time a new scoring level is demonstrated, the appropriate amount of credit is added to the learner's actual pace. Once entered, learner scores will be reflected in real time on their Empower pacing meter. Think of these test tubes as level 3 mastery. If a learner demonstrates mastery successfully, the appropriate movement is reflected on their actual pacing. But what about if a learner only demonstrates level 2 knowledge, or the assignment only teaches to a level 2? We can still score it. Every time a learner makes a level move in any standard, we enter their score so that their actual pace reflects it. Later, when the learner does achieve level 3 mastery, their pace will be updated again to reflect it. It is extremely important to understand that pacing is scored based on demonstrated knowledge of a learning target. Successfully completing a task does not necessarily mean a learner has demonstrated level 3 knowledge, and not all tasks present an opportunity for a level 3. It's important to deeply understand the standards being taught, and how the knowledge demonstrated in them corresponds to the level of learning progression. A 1 means a learner has begun to undertake the learning process, but may still need support with basic language and skills. 2 represents a basic understanding of terminology and application of knowledge, while a score of 3 represents demonstrated proficiency. Now, not every standard is exactly the same. Some standards can be mastered in a month, like measurement and data, while some may take a whole year, like reading fluency. But don't worry, every standard is properly weighted based on difficulty and complexity of mastery to be demonstrated. Like any science, if you take the time to understand what pacing is and why it's important, you'll find it's a great formula for helping your learners self-monitor progress and ultimately become empowered to succeed.